Hey Sonic, what's that, Knuckles? It looks like we've stumbled across into yet another good news recently. Oh, I'd love to hear more about it. What is that exactly? Well, we'll explain more details about that if we get this video started. Okay then, roger that. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am Knuckles the Echidna here, and I'm an Echidna Warrior, and we are back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Nintendo Wii U/Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've basically wrapped up everything for the sake of the forms of Juicy Jungle. That was actually quite an interesting experience in the end. Most notably, we did somehow found the last batch of the forms of those puzzle pieces, and on top of that, we actually went into, without doubt, the hardest temple level in the entire game, which as a result, it is the forms of platform problems. And on top of that, we did somehow beat the 5th boss, known as Bash Master. And overall, that boss fight is pretty epic, all things considered. Mainly with the forms of the music, and also, I really love the forms of face-off against with Bash Master, the polar bear. So, everything else will be come to expect at this point. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're going to be able to explore through World 6, known as Donkey Kong Island. So yes, we're going back onto the actual main island of all things. In fact, kind of thing about it though, Knuckles, is that while we're going through island to island, I'm pretty sure, it does kind of reminds me like the exactly same structure as you go into the world map screen from the likes of Crash Bandicoot, specifically the first game on the PlayStation. Oh yeah, exactly, just because we go from island to island. Yeah, exactly. So here we go on to World 6-1, Homecoming Hijinks. So because of that, yeah, as you can tell about the fact that we can pretty much guaranteed able to explore some familiar locations based off from Donkey Kong Country Returns, except now, everything else is covered in snow. So yes, we do need to get rid of the snow somehow if we do manage to take care of the forms of the main threat during the course of the forms of this entire world. And I think, fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that Donkey Kong Island is going to be, without a doubt, the longest world in the entire game, not only because certain stages are very lengthy, but also how many amount of levels that we expected to go to. Because, relatively speaking though, Sonic, is about the fact that, as you can tell, the first stage we're going to be jumped right into for the sake of the forms of Donkey Kong Island, 6-1 Homecoming Hijinks is obviously going to be based off from the likes of World 1, from the likes of the Jungle World in Donkey Kong Country Returns. Except the noticeable differences being is that there's only one level for each specific world that is based off from. At least as far as I was going to be thinking about this anyway. So because of that, as you can see, we bring back Dixie Kong again, just in case we can able to have the entire experience a lot more easier. But still, regardless of everything else though, it's about the fact that every once in a while, that we will come across into ice physics. So because of that though, this is where the game starts to get a little bit more difficult and challenging at this point, especially if you really go on to get out of your way to able to actually go after the remaining puzzle pieces. Well, best of luck, I guess. Especially concerning for the fact that some of them can be quite well hidden. And other times though, about the fact you need to be so accurate with all that timing jumps and what have you. So because of that, hopefully it shouldn't give us too many troubles on this particular stage whatsoever. Well, to be more specifically though, Sonic, for the entire world. So, because obviously we still managed to keep ourselves Dixie Kong with us, so just to ensure for the fact that we can able to actually, you know, take care of certain stages, apart from one in particular exception, which you probably already know what to expect at this point. So, either way though. So, a few things we want to explain for this point today is that, well, today's date of course here is the 6th of February today, in some cases in 2024 today. So, potentially speaking though, we've only just got about 10 more days to go until the forms of Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Nintendo Switch as a remake is going to be approaching in just around the corner now. Well, I would say almost entirely for about a week or so. So because of that though, still I'm pretty excited about that particular remake, especially concerning for the fact that, just seriously, it's been a very long time since we've last got a new Mario vs. Donkey Kong game. Well, technically speaking, it's just a remake, not the actual brand new game, but I don't mind about it too much. So because of that though, because it's obviously it's going to be based off from, in my opinion, the best Mario vs. Donkey Kong game ever, because it plays pretty similar to Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy, so that's as far as I was expecting. So because of that though, jeez, we did not expected this, and that was the longest drop right there. But that's okay though, because obviously I somehow missed that particular puzzle piece somehow, because I'm pretty sure we need to able to step onto that specific bunny-like enemy, and as a result we have to go up here and just ground pound or hand slam this, and that should able to give us a next puzzle piece. So, and exponentially speaking though is about the fact that we still need to able to recollect an N again, and hopefully we'll grab the G for a much more successful attempt. So, and I'm pretty sure that the next puzzle piece is going to be at, even though I get the strong feeling we accidentally missed one again. So, hopefully though we will be back for that if we complete the majority of the levels first. So, oh jeez, things get a little bit more chaotic and intense at the same time. So, yeah, it does manage to requires us a lot of concentration at this point. So, I'm pretty sure we need to grab all these bananas and the puzzle piece did show up. Yeah, because if you did not do this at all, then obviously you might accidentally hit that particular gold barrel, and you have to redo the entire stage again, unless that you keep that puzzle pieces, you know? So yeah, that was about it for the sake of the forms of this stage. I think it's not too shabby for the most part, despite the fact that we accidentally died due to the forms of this unexpected crumbling platforms every once in a while. So because of that, I love the fact that every time whenever we go on to the next stage, enjoying the forms of in Donkey Kong Island, we're actually going to be hopping into barrel cannons. So, makes sense, because obviously no matter what though, snow is pretty slippery. So, anyways, here we go on to 6-2 Seashore War, I think is what it says anyway. And if you couldn't tell already, this level is obviously based off from the worlds from Donkey Kong Country Returns, as in the beach world. Yeah, because as far as I'm aware, there's going to be a lot of water that we definitely need to avoid. And on top of that, I don't think it's possible we can able to swim on this stage, because obviously the entire water is pretty cold, especially concerning about the fact that if it snowed, then obviously the temperature of the water is going to be really, really cold. So I think fundamentally speaking for this point, Sonic, I think back in during the forms of in Juicy Island or Juicy Jungle World, that is potentially is the final world in the game to able to allows you to able to swim. Because obviously no matter what though, once we get to this world in general, we're going back into the forms of the exactly same system as the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns that we cannot able to go into underwater anymore. So, kind of unfortunate though, because I would love to able to swim something like this again. So, and this is a little bit different for the sake of this bonus area right here, because now we actually come across into slippery ice platforms. So, get it because of how the fact that I think, fundamentally speaking though, that generally speaking though, if you want to play the game normally, this is generally the final main world in the game, because fundamentally speaking though, it's about the fact that obviously we need to restore everything for Donkey Kong Island for sure. So, hopefully though, that this world won't give us any much trouble. So, hopefully though, that should be the case. Even though there are a couple of exceptions, mind you, because as far as I'm concerned, that this particular world, as far as I'm concerned, might able to actually contain the final secret exit in the entire game, but hopefully we'll get around into that at some point if we just somehow continue experiencing this world. So, alright, so we're going to be able to keep on lifting this up. Well, we already technically did, so, oh boy. Alright, so we have to lift this and keep on defeating those enemies like these, so just in case they don't easily get in your way. And potentially speaking of Knuckles, is about the fact that, fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that I can't even believe we're nearly at the end of this game. Oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of that specific topic at this point. Is that, by that time and specifically in this week though, we would like to point things out with this particular uploading schedule changes for this week, because potentially speaking though, it's about the fact that since that Ray the Flying Squirrel, he's almost finishing up everything for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and hopefully he should be able to finish up the entire game at some point, specifically until tomorrow in some cases though. And we figured, since that we've almost catching up, we're able to finish up the entire Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, we figured we were able to do 3 uploads for the specific week, for the sake of this game in particular, just because No matter what though, we do need to catch up as we said before, which thankfully we've almost did. So exponentially speaking though, that will be the only time we're going to be able to try to do something like this. Especially concerning for the fact that if we dare manage able to try to delay this for about a week, that would be embarrassing as far as I'm concerned. But anyways though, let's grab this next puzzle piece right here, so that should be good to go for the sake of convenience. So yeah, it looks like we're not doing too bad for able to actually obtaining certain puzzle pieces. Well, apart from a couple of exceptions, which is of course, we did somehow miss one of them during the forms of in a previous stage, so yeah, it seems kind of unfortunate though, but regardless of anything else though, that's as far as we can able to address it, or address that rather. And as you can tell, I need to be very cautious around here, especially concerning for the fact— ah, come on! Ah, that gosh darn penguin. But at least that's okay, because we already got the checkpoint, so at the very least we don't need to worry about trying to go all the way back to the beginning again, so yeah, you definitely need able to be more precise with all that specific situations, like imagine if you're trying to able to— oh wow, we got the G already from earliest point in the level. Yeah, I almost assume about the fact that we'll get the G nearly at the end of the level, but as it turns out that we did somehow obtain it quite early on, so yeah, it's a little bit different, I guess. So, as to be expected, we do need to avoid more of those melon bombs, so just in case you don't get exploded at one point. Alright, so— oh jeez. And make sure you don't hesitate, because otherwise, if you hesitate, then obviously you're going to able to get our lives drained. So, I think that's what I was going to be saying about this at this point. So, anyway, puzzle piece up there, and that's it. That's all the puzzle pieces that we did somehow collected. So, not too shabby for the most part, especially because, you know, that we're actually getting pretty close in regards to the forms of collecting every single puzzle pieces throughout the majority of the game. But then again though, sometimes that certain puzzle pieces can be felt a bit tricky to find, you know? Yeah, and fundamentally speaking for this point, Sonic, is that I'm pretty certain that we've only got one more temple left, or one more temple level left, and so we've basically done every single temple levels, also we think. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point, Knuckles, because potentially speaking though is about the fact that we're still on this entire process of able to, you know, get some progression going for this entire world. So, now I'm pretty sure about the fact that I don't think it's possible we can able to complete the entire world in one video, but definitely doing at some point on Thursday for sure, so we can pretty much expect to see that going. So, anyway, so that pretty much does it for that. So let's move on to level 6-3, and that's what appears to be Aquatic Assault, I think is what it says anyway. And I think, fundamentally speaking though, this particular level is actually based off from another one of those worlds, based off from Donkey Kong Country Returns, and it obviously takes place in a Ruins world, because no matter what though, it does manage to able to have ourselves the familiar structure, and not only that though, once we make our way to the end of a level, that we might come across into something a little bit more familiar, which, then again, we'll explain more about it until then. I surprisingly forgot to mention about something is about the fact that whenever you're trying to do the idle animation, in regards to the forms of playing as Donkey Kong himself, basically though, depending on what version of the game you're playing, obviously no matter what though, on the Wii U version, that Donkey Kong actually plays the Nintendo 3DS XL, and depending on what specific auto animation you go into, I think he does manage to play quite a number of games, ranging from Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and there's also another one I can probably think about, but I haven't exactly got thoughts about it, so because obviously it's been a very long time since we've last played the original Wii U version of the game, just because I have to be honest here, I'm pretty much more accustomed to the Switch version now, mainly because of faster loading times. Not only that though, the graphics look a lot more better, even because of the forms of 1080p at all times on TV mode, and on top of that with 720p if you ever play on the handheld mode. And potentially speaking though, speaking of which though, if you ever played the funky mode, I believe Donkey Kong actually plays a Nintendo Switch instead. I think is what it says anyway. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I'm not exactly sure what games that Donkey Kong decides to play on the Nintendo Switch on its idle animation, but let me know in the comments down below, because obviously we haven't exactly tested this out in regards to the forms of the idle animations. I mean, it is kind of interesting though, still, but I haven't exactly utilized it for some time ago. Well, mainly because I just really loved able to control things, you know, even with character movements and all that stuff, although I would have liked able to show us that specific details, but I just couldn't get the hang of it though. You might able to realize about something like this, so anyways, we managed able to get yet another puzzle piece there. I'm pretty sure that we are once again missing that one of those puzzle pieces, I'm pretty sure, just because no matter what though, that again, we haven't exactly checked anything else out. Well, we did manage able to get every single Kong letters though, but I get the strong feeling if we do die at one point, which we might accidentally do at one point, obviously about the fact that we have to recollect them again, which it might be pretty standard stuff, so. And I think that's pretty much about it for this level, so yeah, and as you can see on this little background right there, you see that 8-bit sprite of Donkey Kong is actually holding the Wii U gamepad. Yeah, which is actually pretty interesting because obviously this game did originally came out for the Wii U, so it makes it pretty obvious for the sake of that specific reference. You know, kind of like the forms of how it does it in Donkey Kong Country Returns, back on the forms of in the Nintendo Wii version, that basically though, once you finish one of those levels in that game, basically though, Donkey Kong as the actual 8-bit statue structure, that it does manage to hold a Wii remote, because obviously that game did originally came out on the Nintendo Wii, whilst compared to the forms of in this game, that obviously he's now holding the Wii U gamepad, because obviously this game did originally came out on the Wii U back in 2014, which seriously, it's pretty crazy to think about the fact that the original version of the game has been out for 10 years almost. 10 whole years since the last, you know, original Donkey Kong kind of game or something like that. Or to be more specifically though, Sonic, the last time we actually had a Donkey Kong game for, you know, for 10 years ago now. Well, as if you don't want to count the forms of the Switch version as we are currently playing through, but still, it's pretty crazy. But either way though, that's besides the point. So, anyways, let's get into the forms of another topic at this point today, is that, fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that we were try to watch something at some point until tomorrow, and that's of course, the Marvels, which as a result, don't get my hypes up at this point though, Sonic, is most notably because I've heard some, pretty lame parts of it though, which then again we're not going to mention any spoilers from now on, just because, well, fundamentally speaking though, because obviously that film is about to be releasing on Disney Plus until tomorrow, so because of that though, yeah, we'll explain more about that particular film until specifically at some point on, probably on Thursday or Friday, depending on the forms of specific discussions we'd like to point things out, but still, we don't usually get our high expectations, you know. So anyways, let's move on to the next level, and oh no, we're going back to the cave environment. Yep, this means we're going on to 6-4 Blurry Flurry. I think it's what it says anyway. So, guess what specific gimmick that you have able to put up with in the majority of the forms of this stage? Well, not only is it actually based off of one of the worlds from Donkey Kong Country Returns, and this obviously takes place in a cave, but also, get this, is that we have to able to catch a ride on one of those vehicles, so yeah, this is gonna be quite tricky as far as this is concerned, which, yes, we have to able to take a ride on the rocket barrel. Oh boy, then we might able to die a lot, aren't we? Well, suffice to say for this point though, is about the fact that, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So, no matter what though, yeah, you have to take a ride on this at all times. And I recall correctly, or if I recall correctly, getting those puzzle pieces on this stage is a nightmare. Mainly because you have to collect every single collectibles on specific spots. Like, at least the first piece is not too bad, but eventually later on though, it gets super duper ridiculous if you ask me. Well, let's not get of ourselves at this point, Sonic, because obviously that we accidentally died right there. Because I think, fundamentally speaking, though, we might able to stumble across into that bonus room right at the beginning. But, of course, much like always, we need to deliver that particular barrel right onto that specific target over there. Yep, and so much so, we did somehow accomplish that. Oh boy, this stage is going to be a little bit more difficult as it seems. But, wish us luck, I guess, especially considering for the fact that it'll get us a live strainers for every time whenever you get to this stage for the very first time. So, because of that, though, yeah, there's nothing else we can able to point things out. So, at the very least, we did somehow accomplish this, no matter what, though. So, yeah, that pretty much takes care of the forms of the beginning portion of the level now. So now let's get on to the painful part about the stage, to me anyway. That's of course the rocket barrel segment, which not only because of these stingy puzzle pieces, but also with the forms of how the fact that, well, at the very least, the good news about these kinds of stages, as we've already addressed that before, that at the very least you do have 2 hit points, as opposed to just 1, unlike the forms of how it does it on Donkey Kong Country Returns. So thankfully there's no sense of frustration this time around, apart from the very stingy puzzle pieces locations. Like, when I first played this stage back on the Wii U version back in 2014, my god, there was one puzzle piece that really ticks me off the most, and because of that, it takes me a lot of trial and error that is going to be involved. So, you see what I mean in journey forms of in the later parts of this stage, and oh, speaking of the devil, this stupid little bat thing is back, but except this time he's now got frozen, so ha! Eat that, you stupid old bat that who's trying to able to ruin my patience and all that stuff, which I'm pretty sure that both Mighty and Ray have already got PTSD about the forms of that stupid bat creature. You know, that he constantly summons the forms of that supersonic waves, so that's as far as I can able to expect, don't you think, Knuckles? Well, I was thought about that, so yeah, because potentially speaking though, at the very least we don't need to worry about that anymore. It's just that with those puzzle pieces, if you really want to go after everything, like this part right here, I'm pretty certain we do need to get every single items while avoiding those snowballs, and it is not easy though. It is seriously not as easy as it looks. So yeah, because obviously you need to be so accurate with all this particular precision, and on top of that with timing involved, and not only that though, as we've already addressed that before, this stage can drain lives quickly if you're trying to go for not just by the forms of getting every single puzzle pieces, but also with the forms of any other con letters if you dare miss one of them. And also, let's not forget ourselves with the another playthrough, which that as a result, we're probably not going to mention about that right now, just because no matter what though, we'll save that particular topic until sometime on Friday. I'm pretty sure that's what it's at. So, anyway, because, yeah, I would say this right now, that this is by far the hardest main level of the game in my opinion, unless if you don't want to count the forms of the temple levels, although I will say that the hardest stage, for me anyway, it obviously have to be by the forms of platform problems for that particular temple level located in journey forms of Juicy Jungle, because, you know, a lot of trial and error decided to kick in. And not only that though, is about the fact that you need to be so fast at that specific parts like that. So, yeah, I always thought about the same thing for this point in Sonic, because no matter what though, this stage really decides to able to get a lot of trial and error that it's entirely involved, so. But at least we're getting ourselves some pretty decent progress so far. I mean, sure, no matter what though, there might be a couple of times that we might mess up at one point, unless if we do manage to decide to use one of those item inventories. Basically though, it makes the entire process not that much of an issue, but still, no matter what though, it just feels kind of ridiculous if you ask me, so. Anyway, now we got the G, so that should be all good, even though despite the fact that we messed up on that specific part again, but whatever, at least we'll come back into it at some point. Oh jeez, we actually take control of this actual massive snowball. Kind of interesting conclusion right there. Especially concerning for the fact that obviously no matter what though, we still have to able to try to deal with specific jumps that we have to jump over for those bottomless pits everywhere, because otherwise if you mess up specific jumps, then obviously you're gonna have to try this part again. So thankfully that part is gonna be really short though, so at least we've already accomplished it. Yeah! More banana coins for 15 of them. Oh wait, oh jeez, that stage is just stressful. Even though sadly we only missed about 3 pieces. Oh jeez. This means we have to go back to that level again once we've gone through everything first. Oh boy indeed. But enough about that, and it looks like we can now able to actually access to Funky's shop down there. So I think what I'm gonna do is that we're also able to go in here and able to actually decide to maybe buy some more figurines for the capsule, or perhaps even maybe my favorite item right here, which is of course summon Dixie Kong barrels just in case for certain stages coming up. So let's see what specific figures we've got this time. But then again, it'll be duplicates every once in a while, so don't expect things too much to able to get high hopes for trying to achieve those specific figurines as far as this is concerned. Oh yeah, something worth noting for is that until tomorrow, that for those of you probably wondering, we're about to celebrate the release of the 10th anniversary of the film's release of the Lego Movie. Because yes, tomorrow the Lego Movie is eventually become 10 years old since 2014. Like, jeez, it's kind of crazy to able to think that that particular film has been out for a very, very, very long time. Especially, I still really enjoy that film, even though that because of how the fact that despite my Lego enthusiasm is a bit phased out at one point. So, anyways, let's move on to 6-5, Forest Folly. And obviously this takes place in the forest world for the likes of World 5, based off from Donkey Kong Country Returns. But anyway, so there's also another thing we want to mention about something, is about the fact that before we get on to the biggest highlight of today, or perhaps even technically speaking though, it did recently happen since on Friday, that I suppose that Ray the Flying Squirrel has completely forgot to mention about, including Buddy Forms Within yesterday, but we'll explain more about it until whenever we get to the next couple of levels ahead. So, anyway, suffice to say, is that those two specific series, where it comes to the forms of, certain upcoming seasons between these two shows, which there are Stranger Things and Wednesday. Those specific new seasons with those two shows will not return for the new season until next year in 2025. At least whatever I found out anyway. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that you have to wait even longer until that particular thing decides to release during that time. So yeah, it's kind of a pain though. But oh yeah, there's also another thing we want to mention, is that by that time until Saturday sometime in this week, did you know about the fact that The Lion King 1.5 is going to become 20 years old until specifically on Saturday coming up? Oh yeah, because we do remember watching that back on the VHS days, back in Journey Films a bit long time ago, didn't we? Yeah, and we still remember watching it back then, and good thing we still managed to have ourselves the actual film of The Lion King 1.5, or The Lion King 3 for some reason, on the UK version, because again, that title doesn't make sense just because it's not a sequel, but more accurately, in a between quill, or something relates to that? Well, according to the phones, that teaser trailer or something for this point, Knuckles, but either way, I think we do need to do this, and then we can able to actually go into that bonus area right there. So, yeah, problem solved. So, anyway, let's go ahead and just do with this part right here. So, but this time with just Donkey Kong all by himself. So, at least this particular bonus area is not too bad, unlike in some other bonus areas, like involves around the trampolines and all that stuff, but still. But either way, success as always. So, anyways though, there's also another thing we want to mention, is that Megamind is returning. In not only for a new film, specifically only exclusive to Peacock Original, and on top of that, the new series as well, which is also going to be exclusive for Peacock Original. And potentially speaking of, one of those films is actually called Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate, I think is what it says anyway. And on top of that, the series is actually going to be called Megamind Rules. So I believe Megamind Rules is going to be the actual TV series, and the actual film Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate is going to be the actual new film. So pretty cool to see, even though it does have some little bit of a questionable choices, like specifically with all its visuals has been a little bit of a downgrade compared to the forms of how it does it on the first film, from what I've heard anyway. Despite the fact that we still have not seen the first film yet, but I do know it's actually available on Netflix, so at least if I'm assuming so anyway. So, but yeah, we are curious to check it out if that particular things is about to be releasing, and I think fundamentally speaking, both of those specific things throughout is going to be releasing at some point on the 1st of March, at least what if I found out anyway. I'm pretty sure it's going to be America for the time being, so relatively speaking, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be releasing on UK version as far as I'm concerned, but time will tell, time will tell. So anyways, there's also another thing we want to address in regards to the forms of what's going on just recently. Well, truth be told, no matter what though, out of nowhere is that we're about to be able to get ourselves the actual sources for the confirmation that Disney will release something on September 6th in this year in 2024. And as far as I'm concerned, the live-action version of Lilo and Stitch will now receive a theatrical release. Ugh. Why, oh why, did they have to able to pull up something like this? I almost assumed that's going to be on Disney Plus exclusive, but as it turns out, they did somehow manage to take a huge step forward for able to release the film on the big screen. And I'm still not gonna able to trust seeing the forms of those godforsaken live-action movies again, because my god, that's getting tiring very fast. And again, to make matters worse though, is about the fact that still, that Sonic the Hedgehog 3, well, at least we are still very excited for Sonic 3, don't get us wrong, but it's just that I still find it to be unbelievable that Mufasa the Lion King movie is just releasing around the same day as Sonic 3. Like, seriously. I still find this to be a little bit baffling to me. But that's just the way how I feel about it anyway, so... But, speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 though, is that we actually get ourselves our first look of the brand new logo has been revealed for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And if we guessed it correctly, back in Journey Films have been some time ago in November last year, that we did somehow already guessed it correctly, that it's going to be inspired by Sonic Adventure 2 logo. Well, as it turns out just recently, that the logo has been revealed, and yes, we were right, it is inspired by Sonic Adventure 2. Not only because of the forms of that specific familiar logo referencing Sonic Adventure 2 logo, but also, if you listen carefully on that specific announcement title, basically, the Live and Learn instrumental theme actually plays. So, pretty awesome to me, especially concerning for the fact that we are still incredibly hyped about that particular film we'll be releasing. Especially that there's a lot of Sonic fans, including ourselves, will be very, very, very excited to know how that film is going to play out to be once that's going to due out at some point in December this year. And to make matters even better, is that, say with me, he's back! Yes, apparently though, Jim Carrey is going to return in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And just like the previous two films, I think he's going to be acting out as Dr. Eggman for the third time. So yeah, it's pretty exciting, don't you think, Knuckles? Well, despite that he was a deceiver to me, but regardless of everything else though, I'm still very excited to see him on the big screen, yet again, ever since in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So yeah, pretty amazing, potentially speaking, and I can totally see why that 2024 is the huge year for Shadow fans, including by the forms of, well, some Sonic fans as usual. So because of that though, yeah, let us know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys excited about the fact that Jim Carrey is now going to return in Sonic the Hedgehog 3? Because let us know in the comments section down below, especially concerning for the fact that still we are very, very hyped about it. So because of that, and I'm pretty sure at this point in time, is about the fact that we've almost got 10 months left until that film decides able to come out until December 20th. So at least I was thinking about that anyway. So although let's not get high expectations for able to, like, well, you know what I'm talking about. We still have to ignore Mufasa the Lion King movie, just because that film is going to be pretty bad, for what I can tell anyway, once that film's going to be releasing. So, relatively speaking, we have some high expectations with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, so either way, we shall see what happens at some point on December. So, and something's worth noting for is that when it comes to the forms of something related to the forms of Shadow stuff, some people tend to able to complain about quite a few things in regards to the forms of Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. That some people seem to complain about the fact that when it comes to Sonic Generations as a game portion of that specific upcoming game is about to be releasing, apparently some people did say that the Sonic Generations portion of that specific package of Sonic Cross Shadow Generations is technically a port to the forms of Sonic Generations, what I've noticed, but except the fact that I don't think there's any, like, remastered elements to it, apart from 60 frames per second or something. You know, just like the forms of how it does it for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, for not only for the Wii back then, but also with the Nintendo Switch as a direct port or something like that. And this also applies to the forms of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury with the forms of Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U. But potentially speaking of, because obviously the visuals in Sonic Generations portion of that particular upcoming game is basically untouched. Like, it still runs on Hedgehog Engine, but what I've noticed is that with the forms of Shadow Generations portion, I think it's going to be made by Hedgehog Engine 2, what I've noticed anyway, similar to the forms of how it does it in Sonic Forces, and some people are worried about the fact that the entire physics, including buddy forms of the momentum, might be based off from Sonic Forces, which some people might be worried about. But I'm sure enough though, it will still be fun, don't get us wrong, especially considering for the fact that hopefully the levels doesn't go completely short, unlike the forms of how it does it in Sonic Forces, where the majority of the stages are too short, including with the forms of Episode Shadow free DLC for Sonic Forces. Let's not make that particular campaign extremely shorter, because obviously that was quite an interesting experience. And not only that though, it only shows 3 stages in Episode Shadow. Like, seriously, whoever thought that was a good decision? Like, I just have nothing else to say about this, I guess. So, anyways though, and as you can see, we've already completed this particular stage right here. And obviously, this is obviously based off from World 6, from Donkey Kong Country Returns, by the forms of the Cliff World. And I think, fundamentally speaking of, as you can tell, this is actually a Silhouette level. So, pretty cool to able to see that Silhouette kind of level again. Although, I'm afraid to tell you, this will be the final Silhouette level type as far as this is concerned. Because at this point in time, it's about the fact that, let's just say, we'll do one more level for now. And that's what appears to be buddy forms of World 6-7, Frozen Frenzy. And can you guess what that particular level is actually based off from? Well, you guessed it, it's going to be based off from World 7, but it appears to be on the Factory World. So, at the very least though, we're now on to the halfway point. It turns the forms of Donkey Kong Island, and we are getting very close towards the end of this specific world. So, yeah, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that we can pretty much guarantee for saying this, is about the fact that I believe that this particular stage does manage to contain the final secret exit in the entire game. However though, just like the forms of how it does it on most secret exits required, to be more specifically, Twilight Terror, as well as the forms of some other levels throughout, I believe we do need to keep Dixie Kong at all times. So, yeah, we can pretty much expect to know what this is going. So, hopefully we won't able to have too much trouble or anything else like that, but obviously we need to aim for the normal exit first, so just to ensure for the fact that we can able to easily take care of the normal exit first off. So, but anywho, Although, also another thing that some people complain about in regards to the forms of Shadow or Sonic Cross Shadow generations is that, generally speaking though, is about the fact that they are pretty worried about the fact that if the Steam version is going to get delisted at some point, that just upsets a lot of Sonic fans, even for the entire community, especially because there are so many mods for Sonic generations since back in 2012 and onwards. Like, it does have some pretty cool and awesome mods, likely also for the sake of the Super Mario Generations mod. That's actually a really good mod. And on top of that, there's also the forms of playable Shadow, playable Silver, playable Tails, and a whole bunch of the forms of those playable characters created by the forms of some mods for the likes of Sonic Generations. I can totally see why that Sonic Generations is by far the most popular Sonic game on the actual PC Steam version, just because, well, a whole bunch of mods are everywhere, ranging from level themes from past Sonic games, some new creative levels, and on top of that, a whole bunch more, especially concerning for the fact that maybe if it's a possibility, if that particular port decided able to come out, then I think it could be still possible you can able to actually still, well, maybe access to other mods or something. Well, it's a bit difficult to tell at this point, just because, like we've already established that before, that obviously it's just the able to, like, well, it's still scheduled to be released at some point in autumn, sometime in this year. Although we're still pretty excited for it though, to be able to replay through Sonic Generations again. After all, that we might able to aim for 3 versions once again, just like the forms of how it does it in not only for Sonic Colors Ultimate, but also with Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Superstars, Sonic Mania Plus, Sonic Origins Plus, and on top of that, Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Forces. But it's just, I really can't help it for myself how much of a huge Sonic fan that we are. So because of that though, because, well, I'm pretty excited for multiple things for the sake of the forms of this year, so... But either way, that's for that particular topic decides to end anyway, although I'm pretty sure enough though is about the fact that we'll let Ray the Flying Squirrel we're able to mention more other details at some point in later down the road for the majority of the films of probably until tomorrow, and exponentially speaking though, as we've already established that before. Oh, really? Oh jeez, there's going to be a lot of death situations involved, mainly with the forms of this unexpected electricity, and not to mention though is about the fact that it does manage to require us a lot of emphasis on timing aspect, so, oh boy. In fact, that was actually a definition of the close call right there. But yeah, that's as far as we can able to say about the forms of today's discussion at this point. I mean, yeah, we are very glad about the fact that Jim Carrey is now back. Like, seriously, that is the greatest aspect about the Films Lab specific recent news. So, also, bonus area. Oh yeah, what I've noticed for this point, Sonic, is that I've noticed that there's going to be some other actors that's going to be joined in for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie as well. Oh, I'm curious to know who they are. Well, I haven't exactly thought about the actual full list. I've managed to check out something, but my guess correctly is that it might able to actually bring some actors who's going to be players other different characters in the Sonic 3 movie. Like, who else? Maybe Shadow, or Rouge, or maybe Amy, or even much more. But then again, we'll have to wait and find out during the later months to come for the likes of 2024, because like we've already established that before, we've almost got into 10 months left until that particular film decides to come out on the big screen. So let's just hope that film does not get delayed or anything, because if it does, I blame on Mufasa the Lion King movie a lot, because, well, if that seems to be the case, then obviously I'm probably gonna skip that particular pointless live-action movie again by Disney of all things, but still. But I'm biased, I guess. I'm pretty much biased, but still. And as you can tell, that we seem to have a lot of struggles with this particular stage so far. I mean, if we imagine if we keep Dixie Kong in all times, there shouldn't be that much of a problem, but it's just that sometimes we just keep on hesitating, so... Oh yeah, every once in a while that we will come across into certain icicle platforms that if you stand on one of those icicle platforms, then obviously it attempts to crack, and obviously it will just get disintegrated easily, so... Alright, so I'm pretty sure we've almost done, but if we go up here, there's the next puzzle piece right up there. Oh, okay, so we've got every single puzzle pieces on that stage. Okay. I was expecting about the fact that it will be a lot more trickier as it looks, but as it turns out, we basically got every single puzzle pieces at this point. So, okay. Even though despite the fact that we've already died right there, so, whoops. That's okay though, because we've already got the checkpoint familiar, so... Oh, jeez. This gosh darn ice physics, they really try to screw us up. But we do know how to deal with this particular enemy right there, that he's trying to able to strike us at one point. So, hopefully, third time lucky, I guess, when it comes to passing this part. So, or, potentially, we can able to easily ignore him. Alright, how are we supposed to get that specific, end right there? Ah, there we go. Problem solved. And as far as I'm aware, G is going to be on, later on. I think it's likely after this part, and I'm pretty sure up there, that is what the secret exit is, so... But, unfortunately though, it requires Dixie Kong to get there, so... And there we go, we've got the G, so now we just need to finish the level as normal, so... I suppose with that being said for this point, folks, is that we do have the endings of this point right here. So join us next time for more Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, is that we're most able to finish up the main game by finishing up everything for Donkey Kong Island. So we'll see you guys until on Thursday. Later, fellas.